this morning, I'm absolutely delighted to be able to speak to, I hope he won't mind me saying, probably one of the oldest Bury players we'll be speaking to in these chats for the Heritage Committee. It's my very great pleasure to say hello to Mr. Tony Bartley. Tony, how are you?
Very well, thank you, James.
It's really good to speak to you.
And it's good to speak to you and all, definitely.
So here we are on Zoom. How old are you? Is it 82? Or are you going to be 82 this year?
83 in March.
83 in March, blimey.
8th of March, 8th of March.
So first things first then, really. How did you come to join Bury from Stalybridge in 1958?
Well, it was through several, probably scouts and people who knew Bury and people who'd been at Bury, and they were all knocking around Stalybridge at the Celtics, watching the games. And I didn't know until they came to me after, and I used to score quite a few goals, you see. So that's what they were after, I think, a left winger who scored goals. I don't know. That's what I've always tried to be, the best for the Bury supporters.
Well, I'm sure everyone who saw you appreciated it. A bit before my time, unfortunately. But who was the manager that you signed for?
I was there. Dave Russell was the manager when I came at first at Bury, and then Bob Stokoe, and so on. But I got on with everybody because they were so wonderful at Bury. The crowd and everything were wonderful.
And what was football as a whole like back in the late 1950s? I imagine it's a very different game to how it is today.
We used to beat better teams than us, and they didn't like it. Because I scored against Leeds, Chelsea, Stoke, Newcastle, Stoke City, you name it, Chelsea and everything. So I used to go on the field thinking, they can't beat us. And Les Archie said, come on, Tony, stick one in the net.
What do you remember about your first team debut?
It was at Tranmere. And we were okay, we were doing all right. We never came off the field. I never came off the field thinking, well, you lemon, you've not played at all today. I would run and I would train until I was fit as a fiddle.
Yeah.
Excuse me getting emotional, but it's broken me up.
That's it.
Very getting slung out.
It's still really up in the air, and it's still quite upsetting as well. You know, you just showed your emotion then, how you feel about it. That's exactly how all those fans feel about it as well.
Yeah. They were wonderful. And one follows me from Thailand, and he was 6-year-old, and he still remembers me.
I think
and Mr. Horwich was marvellous. Absolutely wonderful, George Horwich. I just can't get over it.
If we ask you about your teammates, I can put a picture on the screen now.
Yes.
Who can you tell me in that picture?
Oh, bottom row, Tommy Claxton, Billy Griffin, Alec Alston, Colin Bell and myself.
And then on the back row?
Harry Bunner, Brian Eastham, Chris Harker, Brian Gallagher, Brian Turner and Gordon Atherton.
And you all got on well, did you?
Oh, it was wonderful. Wonderful. Harry were always close to me because I used to bring him to work. Great fella, mild, quiet as a mouse, and wonderful person.
Yeah. And then I think you attended some kind of reunion at gig a few years later, didn't you? I've got this picture as well that you sent me.
That's the one. Yeah. I arranged for all those boys to come to a reunion. They came from America and everywhere. And it was wonderful. And Brian there, Brian Eastham, he's still the man. Yeah, he's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th from the left at the back row.
Right.
And Brian used to have a saying, nobody's perfect, Bob. Nobody's perfect. And when I phoned him up and I said, nobody's perfect, he said, oh, is it you again? He said, you've not remembered that, have you? I said, yeah, because everywhere in the world says it. Oh, this is true. I already that much. It's incredible. Incredible. And Harry was always a wonderful person, and they were all great. Chris Harker, Brian Gallagher, Bob Stokoe, Mr. Morris, I think it was called, Dave Russell, the Ranger. He was great. Yeah.
You can tell Bob Stokoe with those eyebrows there, can't you? He's in the centre of the middle row.
Bob was there right in the centre in the light grey suit, I think he had on, or light coloured suit.
Yeah.
Next to Terry Robinson.
That's right.
I remember every single person.
It's lovely to hear that you have such fond memories, definitely.
Well, you couldn't have anything else because they were marvellous, absolutely marvellous. And great ability in that team. We could give anybody a game. That's what Mike Summerby said when I went out to City one time. Bury could beat anybody then. Yeah. So they couldn't all.
And what was training like as a footballer back then as well? We've got this picture of you here.
Yeah, well, I used to always train very hard because the quicker you are and the more ability you have, the better you are. So it's no good to me saying, well, I can't kick with my left foot. My mother showed me how to run or whatever, and this, that, the other. It's no good to me that. There's a board there at the back of us. You could practice with the ball there with your left foot, right foot, until you were going daft, until you could do it with both feet. Yeah. And that's what I used to do. Used to practice corners from the corner flag, putting them one bounce in the penalty area and straight in the net, and have somebody throwing it back to me. Then I'd go on the left wing and take them with my left foot, and same again, one bounce, and they go in the net. And then at weekend, you're not stuck. I could shoot with both feet. So that's all through practice.
You've got Johnny Hubbard behind you as well.
You've got there myself, Johnny Hubbard, Alan Jackson, Harry Bunner, Johnny Robinson, Frankie Adams, Gordon Atherton, John McGrath, and Doc Watson. Harry Bunner and the thing I'd like to mention is about Les Hart. Les Hart was wonderful. He'd make you laugh when you're feeling bad, you know what I mean? He used to, we'd go over Ainsworth for a 7-mile run, and then we'd go up the golf course and we'd run up the hill through the trees and back down. And he'd say, Les, it's 10 to 12 now, and we've done about 8 to 10. He'd say, well, do another 2 because it'll do you good. If you've got a kick on the ankle and you have a swelling, yeah, he'd say, go over Bury Golf Club and walk the 18 holes, right, and heel and toe it. And when you come back, you won't be feeling it. He said, my grandmother's got a bigger injury than that. Don't be giving me silly remarks like that. Les used to make me laugh, he did. I couldn't stop laughing, he was so funny. Yeah, anything you said to him, he'd make a joke out of it.
Yeah.
You were a heck of a good trainer, you know. And he knew, when we were doing the sprints, he knew that who should be in the first 3. And if you weren't, he'd say, I'll see you at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And that was it, you couldn't say no. But I used to love going back at times because he never said to me, you come back because I've told you. But I just loved it because I loved the training. For me, if you're not fit, you can't play.
Yeah.
And like today, there's that many players playing in the Premiership that can't kick with the left foot or the right foot. And they play 45 minutes and then they look like they've been drugged or gone to sleep because they come out and it's not the same team. And I would even talk about my own team like that, but I won't mention no names. But the thing is, Bury never were like that. And they might say, well, who's Bury against all these wonder boys? We never got we got £4 for the win, £2 for a draw. And now it's 250,000 a week and all this, it makes me laugh.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
The way they perform sometimes, I'm ashamed.
Going back to a couple of games in particular, we played Stoke and you did very well against them.
Yeah, now Stan has supposedly been the best right winger there's ever been. Some people say he's not, but the thing is, I think he were a great person and he were a terrific person. He didn't foul, he didn't kick people from behind, he didn't foul people. I couldn't do without me. So the cloggers, when we were playing the cloggers, I used to say to him, listen, if you kick me, you'll be up in Cairo.
Hard as nails, Tony Bartley.
Yeah.
But did you enjoy playing against him?
I enjoyed, you see, Stan at that time was about 50, 51. And obviously, the pace leaves someone when they get older. So I didn't need to bump him or kick him or nothing, no way. I used to just come back and play inside and stop him from getting the ball without shouldering him or anything. Mm. And so Billy Bremner and Norman Hunter and all them, they were all, to me, good players, but I didn't have to look up to them. And the Stoke game, I just hit 2 long-range shots with a good run in between from the halfway line, run forward. As you can see there's me running back with my hands up in the air. That's what I used to do. No hugging and kissing and all this. Not likely. So I can't do without me. It's just not on. You don't rant and rave about what you've done, but I were proud I managed to do it for Bury.
Absolutely, yeah. And then also that was 62, 63, wasn't it? That season, can you remember?
62, yeah. It was bad winter.
Yeah, and that was your best season with Bury, wasn't it? You played every game.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And I used to think about the game a lot, and I knew a lot about playing on the left wing. So if you're in the right position, you'll be very prominent. And if you're not, You won't. And I've always trained hard so I could get the ball up down that left wing and put the ball over. So I made quite a lot of goals as well as scoring them, but I love to score a goal. And if I got two, I think, I missed one there. I should have got three. No, because not being greedy, it's just the fact that if you have the ability to beat someone, and it's said in the games, he went down the left wing and regularly beat this person just as easy as wink. And Warren Bradley once said from United that he could go past people. I wish I could do it like that. He said that to me on the coach going to Sunderland. So I said, it's good of you. And then people like Brian Clough played against Duncan Edwards, Bobby Charlton. I rated Kenny and Duncan the best two players to come out of Old Trafford.
I was going to say about Sunderland, you played in the game where Brian Clough got his injury, didn't you?
Yes, and I was very sad. And then Brian sent me a thing, a gram sort of thing saying, will you meet me at Blackburn? Because I'd like to meet you after all this is over. It's over now, so let's get together. So I went, and these two boys sat in the stand, and he said, Mr. Bartley, can I ask you something? I said, yeah. And it looked like Nigel now to me, because they were all younger then. He said, what did you think about my dad? Because they're all saying big head. And I said, listen, your dad was a good centre-forward. He scored 22 goals in 24 games. Believe it. I said, he were good, your dad, very good. So he came out and he said, hey, I like what you said to our Nigel. I said, well, it were true. And then he invited me on the Nottingham Forest coach, which is where that picture came from. He invited me on the coach outside to shake hands with him for saying, like, he thought I was a decent player.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's 62-63 season. That was really the last time Bury could have, I mean, if it wasn't for the cold winter, we could have got promoted to the old First Division.
I think we failed to go up by about 4 or 5 points, that's all.
Yeah.
But in that time, we'd beaten Stoke City, Chelsea, and all these teams that were well up the league. And we finished I think we finished about 5th. But after a couple of seasons before, people used to think it was a miracle we'd got there. But that was through ability and effort.
Yeah. I've got a picture of the Chelsea goal, actually, that you sent me earlier.
Yeah, now that's Terry Venables.
Oh, right.
With his foot on the ball, that's Terry Venables. Yeah. And I don't know, the middle one, I know his name now, but I can't just think about it. And were it Shelley too, the other one? And that's myself there. Yeah. That's hitting it past Terry Venables.
And we've got another couple of pictures there as well.
You see, and that's with the right foot. Yeah, this was against, that's myself there, and that's the defence there. This was against Sunderland, Jimmy McElroy, and different people there. I do believe that's Sunderland. Or was it Stoke City? I think it was, it could have been Stoke City. That's Liverpool. On the right, this is Liverpool.
Right. That's fantastic crowd, isn't it?
Yeah, we used to get 18,876 against Leeds.
That's fantastic. I still remember that.
25,000 against Arsenal in the cup game. And I was cup tied, so I had to sit in the dugout. I'd just come from Celtic then. But that was Jerry, the full-back. I remember him. And the goalkeeper just escapes me at the moment. I know that was the centre-half, Ron Yates, and that was myself. And I can't remember who was in the middle there. I can usually tell them straight away. But, yeah, he was called Jerry, that full-back anyway.
You played at Anfield that season as well, then? Yes,
we did, yeah. And it was funny because Bill Shankly was a good person and he was great. We went to play Huddersfield once and Ray Wilson was playing for them and Woody in goal from United. And we beat them 1-0 at Huddersfield. So they were, Bury were a good side. They used to run till they dropped.
Yeah.
And you can't beat effort if you've got ability with it.
Well, George Jones could run for England as well, couldn't he?
George Jones, yeah. George were a smashing lad, a great lad. You couldn't fault anybody at Bury. Crowd, dinner ladies, Mr. Horwich. And about 35 years after, he said to Mr. Stoko, to Bob, will you tell Tony Bartley you were my favourite player?
Who said that, sir?
George Horwich.
George Horwich did, all right.
Chairman, yeah. And I were delighted because I had a feeling for him. He were wonderful. He talked you down to earth, brilliant, and good luck today, Tony, and stick one in the net for us. I said, I will. If I get half a chance, I will. And he used to go on the field roaring like a lion, but it was good. It were good, and I'll never forget them. I just can't. I'll never forget them as long as I live.
It's lovely to hear you've got such affection, Tony. It really is.
Yeah, Bury were my favourite club, definitely. And then I went to Sligo Rovers in Ireland, and they're wonderful to me. If you're pleasant with people, they give you back.
Didn't you have a spell at Bolton as well, or did you go there out of the army?
I was in the army. That's when I played against Bobby Charlton and Duncan Edwards, and then I was at Bury, and then I went to Oldham Athletic.
Right. Okay.
And if you don't train as good as they did at Bury, then that was it. But yeah, it's just wonderful. I can't forget Bury.
What was it you did after retiring, Tony? Because we can see here that you've kept all your cuttings and all your programs and everything.
Yeah, well, that was just to show the wonderful people I'd met during the time. And when you think about Matthews on the field with him, and then say George Best, which I did, and then Venables, Stamblinge, Bridges, Stan Matthews, there were a lot of people who hadn't done that. And I thought, well, I couldn't have been so bad if I could do that.
Well, everyone I've ever spoken to about that kind of era always talks about you really fondly. And I was delighted over the summer that you got in touch with Alan Jackson as well.
I did, yeah, because Alan Jackson were a super lad, another one. And he was so quiet, and people used to have a go like for fun. They used to do it in fun. But I said, will you please stop having a go at anybody, right? And that was it, yeah. And I told Alan he was a great player and they enjoyed playing inside left and outside left together. So he was thrilled to bits.
So what was it you did after retiring?
I ran gymnasiums and health clubs sport. I was up at Copley here in the sports centre, taking men and women and children for the best sport they could be doing. Badminton, football, five-a-side football and so on in the big support stadium we have up behind our house here now. So I just loved to keep it all up. And I ran one in Bury and one in Oldham, one in Manchester and so on. And I really enjoyed anything to do with lifting or sit-ups, press-ups, skip jumps and everything.
So I always remember the first time I met you was at gig in 2011. And we were talking in the old bar under the stand. And
that's right.
If you don't mind me saying, you weren't the springiest of chickens, but you still got your foot on the bar. You were able to lift your foot that high.
Yeah, well, it's just through stretching and having the ability. I always love to be able to train very hard and do things. In the gymnasium, I could do like 20 pull-ups behind the neck and things like that, which is a hard exercise. If you do sit-ups, I could do 50, no trouble at all. And then the skip jumps and then clapping, press-ups and used to do lots of that. So it kept me in good condition, and that's why I think I feel okay now.
Yeah, well, you are so sprightly, if you don't mind me saying for your age. I think it's absolutely amazing. I hope I'm like that at 82.
Well, I've always eaten what I call sensibly as well. So I love bananas, I love cornflakes and different things. And I like to keep myself in good condition. I don't smoke, I don't drink. So I might have gone in a club wherever I were in the Bluebells to look for Lazar, but I never had a drink. I can't drink pints and Guinness and all this myself. It's only me, but I can't. So anyway, I just got to say that I've got 3 grandchildren. I've got 3 wonderful kiddies, Lisa, Anthony and John. They're marvellous. 8 grandchildren, 2 great grandchildren, and our Leo is not quite 10 yet, or he's just about 10. And he can play centre half, centre forward, in goal, and play the piano.
Blimey, what an all-rounder.
He's getting asked by different clubs, will you sign on for us and this, that, the other. And he's only 10, but he's dead modest and so on, and he saves penalties and everything. Aaron said you should see him. But you see, with this virus that's on, I can't go out. Can't go where I want to go. I used to cycle up here to work in the summer.
Yeah.
On a bicycle with about 5 gears on, yeah. And I'd cycle to CPA in Carbrook and then back to Bury at night. Anything to keep fit, but I'll never forget Bury.
It's really nice to hear you talking like that about the club, Tony, that players loved it as much as the fans did.
I really mean it, yeah. it brings all the emotions out on me. I just can't. I go on the lottery, hoping I win a million, and then give him, and I would.
Let's just remember the good times, Tony?
Yeah.
I think it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. It's such a privilege to talk to you and to share your memories. And I know that all the people who watch this video will be so delighted to have seen a man who, you know, you've got such dignity of the way that you talk about the club in the 60s. It's just been an absolute pleasure, Tony. I'll stop the recording now, but I will say thank you very much for giving me your time. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you to you for giving me your time.
You're more than welcome.
And allowing me to say that about Bury. That's wonderful.
Cheers, Tony.